beauty of cemeteries is something which most people do not see upon first glance. And yet this beauty is present not only in the symbolism behind traditional statuary and grave markers, but in the history that is deeply embedded in the lives of the individuals whose names are inscribed on those markers. It is for these people, their struggles, their beliefs, and the stories they wove throughout their lifetimes that cemeteries take on a new and inspiring dimension. With all the different forms of statuary that can be found in traditional cemeteries, one never knows what they might find around the next bend. Although its formal title is The Pilgrim, this sculpture by Albin Polasek is known as the Walking Death. Strangely enough, the statue does not cover the grave of any one individual. Staff in hand, wearily he makes his journey onward and wanders through the confines of Bohemian National Cemetery. A mystery, a legend, and a hooded depiction of death itself. From the outside, Woodlawn Cemetery appears a resting place like any other. It is only by delving a layer deeper that one might notice something peculiar about it. A plot of graves, each marked with the same date of death. Instead of names, these graves bear only the word unknown, followed by a number. Stranger still are the 5 markers which border the plot, each one in the shape of an elephant. On the date of June 22, 1918, members of the Hagenbach-Wallace Circus were on their way to a performance in Hammond, Indiana. None of the passengers had any idea that an empty troop train was hurtling towards them at 60 miles per hour, its driver asleep at the throttle. Steel twisted, sparks flew from the tracks, and when the kerosene lamps hit the floor, the train was consumed by fire. The event proved to be one of the greatest train disasters in American history. A total of 86 people, most of them circus performers, perished in the wreck, and another 127 were left injured by the accident. The performance, which had been scheduled for that very same day, would never go on. Some of the recovered bodies, burned beyond recognition, were never identified. Many of the unclaimed dead were laid to rest in Woodlawn Cemetery in a plot purchased by the Showman's League of America. 5 grave markers in the shape of elephants were placed around the borders of the plot, their trunks pointed down as a sign of mourning for the fallen circus performers, many of whom, to this day, are identified only by a number. At the outskirts of Forest Home Cemetery, the bronze figure of the Haymarket Monument stands against the downpouring rain. The Haymarket Monument earns its name from a rally which took place in Haymarket Square. This rally was designed to protest the appalling conditions then faced by the American worker and to aid in the fight to establish an 8-hour workday. But what started out as a peaceful protest quickly turned into an act of violence when one rogue individual threw a bomb into the crowd, killing a total of 7 police officers. 7 men, some of whom had not even attended the protest, were found to be responsible for the bombing. They had given speeches at the rally, and their words had stirred the crowd of gatherers. It was for these words that they were used by the law as scapegoats for the riot. These men, who were tried with a biased jury and a lack of evidence, were not even given the opportunity to defend themselves. The verdict was decided before the trial had begun. The sentence was death. Mere minutes before he was to be hanged, one of the anarchists, a man by the name of August Spies, boldly recited his last words to the judge who had convicted him and the crowd of people who had gathered to watch the execution. The day will come when our silence will be more powerful than the voices you are throttling today. These words, which were later inscribed on the front of the Haymarket Monument, represent the belief that August Spies was willing to die for, that freedom and the rights of human beings were something which could never be infringed upon or taken away. When we put aside the aspects of cemeteries which we find frightening, and slowly start to immerse ourselves in the history which lies behind them, in tales of forgotten tragedy and fearless men willing to die for what they believe to be right, only then can we begin to understand the true significance of cemeteries. Etched into their gravestones, we find the words of stories long past, but more importantly, somewhere amongst the ordered rows of winged angels, we discover the meanings that are attached to these stories. Death cannot diminish these meanings, nor cause us to forget them. They will always have power over us, as long as we take the trouble to look for them, even and perhaps most especially in unexpected places.